All right, everybody. We are going to talk about print statements in Python here. Currently, I have idle open up, and we're going to go ahead and make a new file for it. There we go. Now, we could just run it directly in the interpreter, but it's honestly better just to have a file. That way we can open it up and check it whenever we want. Now, scroll this down a little bit. There we go. I'll put in a little comment here. The first print statement. So print statement is pretty simple. It's just simply print. And then whatever I put in quotes gets printed on the screen. And if I were to run this, and it's going to ask me to save it first because I haven't saved it yet, then I give it a name. Normally I would give it something along the lines of whatever the date happens to be. For example, if that's the date, then there we go. Intro prints or something along the lines of that. But you can really call it whatever you want. I usually do this because, well, it helps me kind of keep all the programs in order. There we go. Runs, whatever is here gets printed there. Now I can also print numbers. So we got words, then numbers. And you'll see each little iteration, it says restart. That's the code that ran. Restart, that's the code that ran for this time. Now I can do math as well. And we can run this. All right, so 10 plus 10 is 20, and it did that math. And I can do, of course, more than just that. Minus 10 times 2. Now it will do the math in the order it's supposed to do it in. So in this case, 10 plus 10, we've got that. That's addition, the subtraction. So it's going to multiply first. Oop, 23. Let's make that 2 instead. A little too big. There we go. So this would make it 2 times 10, which is 20. Then it will basically just go left to right because addition and subtraction have the same weight, basically. So that would be 20. Then it would say 20 minus 20 equals obviously 0. So it's going to do the math in the order the operations are supposed to be in. Now, one of the little, I guess you could say, annoying things about Python, let's say I want to print the number is, and then I want to actually print a number, right? Plus 10. If I were to run this, you're going to see very quickly it's going to give you a crash here. Oop, come back up. There we go. And it tells us specifically what line it's on, what the problem is. This is the statement that it's having an issue with. And the error is can't concatenate string, int. When you're printing something, Python wants them all to be the same. Java, on the other hand, doesn't really care as long as you get the syntax right. So let me also turn on my line numbers here, make it a little easier to read. It says line 7, there's line 7. Now if I want to do it this way, I'm going to have to basically change this into a string. And if I write it wrong, it will of course crash for me. If I write it correctly, then it'll actually print properly like this. So this right here will basically make sure that that's a string. Now this is a number before, now it's going to be considered quotes, string, so it's going to kind of piece it all together in one long statement. Now the same thing would be true if I were to print, 10, and then I wanted to, Bob or something like that. The way the program's going to see this is I'm trying to add 10 plus Bob, and you can't do that. 10 plus Bob does not add together. Now, what if I were to make this B? And that's one single letter. It's still going to give me a crash here. What if I were to try to make this be, instead of, I could make this be a string, and then it should allow me to run this. There it goes, 10b. Or what if I tried it the other way around? What if I said int? And by the way, these are called casting. It's where I force this thing to be something else. So in this case, I force this number to be a string. In this case, I'm trying to force this letter to be an integer. So what happens if I force a letter to be an integer? An integer, by the way, is a whole number, right? Oh, well, there you go. It doesn't like it because that's not an integer. It is a letter. Now, actually, I think in Java, it may take like the ASCII value or something. So as you can see, even if I alter it a little bit, it's still not going to work right. So the only way to get this to work is to basically make it all strings. And then we got something that actually prints out. Oh, whoop. Have my extra brace there. There we go. Ta-da! And that is essentially how your basic print statements work. Now, of course, we can print more than just this. I could print, I could have commas and various other things in here. But print statements are one of the simplest and quickest ways to kind of interact with your project or any program that you build. You go in and you say, ta-da! I need to output something so I can see it. Maybe I'm doing some math. And this is what you would use to actually display it so you could actually interact and see what's going on. All right, and that is just a quick little tutorial on how basic print statements work.